Hey guys, I'm continuing work on the Predicta Tandem. Here's how the cabinet currently looks. I ended up doing a bit of light sanding. I just wasn't happy with the unevenness of the color after the Howards. And with a little light sanding at 400 grit, I was able to get off the remainder of the soot or To make a long story short, I decided to refinish the cabinets. Although I was able to remove the worst of the gunk and discoloration with Howard's Restore finish, and I was able to use lacquer to fill in voids in the finish and get a smooth surface, the color was a little bit uneven, and I couldn't take care of a few dings in it, and it just didn't look that good to me. Also, there was a bit of finish gone from the bottom quarter of each leg. So that's that. So to bring you up to speed, I've already stripped down and refinished the legs, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Used 50/50 lacquer thinner acetone to strip it down. Then I used sanding sealer, a few coats of that, and sanded it to make the surface nice and smooth. Didn't really need grain filler since this is all pretty tight grained hardwood. Then I used red mahogany toner lacquer, followed by a bunch of coats of clear lacquer, and just needs to be rubbed out. I've been waiting for the lacquer to cure more before I do that. In the meantime, I'm starting to work on this. The main body of the cabinet wasn't too hard to get apart since it was mainly held together by screws. So here's what it looks like with the front, back, and bottom removed. Got the bottom over here. Now this will also give me a chance to see what kind of repairs I can do to the bottom. Remember, got damp on one side, and this masonite material swelled up. Also, one of the screws was completely rusted solid, and this area was really badly damaged too. So, see what I can do. It'd be nice to cut out a new piece from scratch and route out all these slots, but I think that would be a little more work than I want to do. So what I think I'll try doing instead is get this damp and try to squeeze it back into shape, and then fill in this material with some really strong wood filler material I've got that I used on my Philco 38/7 chairside to repair some damage in that. And I also have some wood strengthener for dry rot wood situations. You let it soak in and it dries, and it makes the stuff really hard. So if I can squeeze this back into shape and then impregnate it with that material and fill in this void, I think I can make this as good as new. So back to this, I have one side left to strip, and then I want to try something that I've read about a few times but never actually tried, which is to steam out some dings in the wood. So we've got a few scratches in here. They're actually dents in the veneer, and then a few up front. This one I especially would like to try to get out. So the idea is you get a damp rag and you put that down over this, then you use an iron, a clothes iron, on top of that, set on high, and you force steam into the wood fibers, and then it should then ideally expand back to their normal state or original state, and the wood raises back up. And assuming that works, I'll try to get rid of the discoloration, maybe with a little bit of diluted bleach. So I'll get some. I just finished doing one little test area right here, focusing on this ding. I read up online on some various techniques, and the one that I went with was to first get it wet. I dipped my finger in water and dabbed it on here, let it soak in for a little while. Then I put a damp cloth over it and ironed it. And yeah, what do you know? It's almost completely flush with the surface now. Just one unintended consequence, as you can see on the rag here, is that it pulled some of the remaining color out of the wood. Well, that's alright. I figure if I do the whole top, it'll be pretty even in color, plus I'm going to be putting on new toner lacquer anyways. So yeah, that's definitely very encouraging, so I'm going to keep working my way over. This guy's pretty deep right here. Let's see if I can get that out. I think I'll just do this whole area at once. Why not? I got a big enough cloth to cover it. So, some water going on here. I noticed some of the darkness came out as well when I did it. I imagine it got pulled off into the cloth with the steam. Let that soak in for a little while, then I'll maybe a minute or two, and then I'll put the cloth over it and iron it out. Alright, here comes the iron. Just plain old clothes iron. Definitely want to keep it moving at all times. Let's see how that did. Yeah, definitely. This one's level with the surface now, pretty much, as is that. This is probably the deepest ding on the top, and it's still not to the surface, but it's definitely better than it was. I'll try going over that a little bit more. Yeah, almost there. Alright, I'm going to keep at it. And yeah. I was a little bit skeptical, but at least on this cabinet, this is working out great. And then I'll do a little bit of light sanding and see how much of that dark discoloration is still left after that, and then maybe try a little bit of bleach on it. While I had the iron out, I thought I'd tackle another issue. You may recall from my earlier video that not only did that edge of the bottom of the cabinet get damaged, but so did the edge of the side here. This plywood, and then there's the mahogany veneer. And the bottom edge here got a little damp and it swelled out a little bit, so there was a minor little curve at the bottom from it swelling out a little bit. So I soaked water into it with a brush, numerous applications, and I ran the iron along the edge to get some steam going to force it down into the wood fibers, and that made it a bit spongy. So I then applied some glue and let that soak into the damp wood, and then I put a piece of wax paper, piece of hardwood, and then squeezed the heck out of it, and I think that will get it back into shape. I'll let that dry overnight to make sure it's completely dried out and the glue has a chance to set up before I relieve the pressure. First I'm going to try buffing this with Novus number 2, but I think what I'm going to end up having to do is take this cover off. It feels really smooth though, but I'm pretty sure it is on the outside, not the inside. But I bet it's dirty on the inside too. These sets have a habit of attracting dust and dirt. Somehow it works its way inside, and then from the static of the picture tube it kind of builds up. I've taken apart a 17-inch one before, in fact the one sitting right up here. but not a 21. I think it's the same procedure though. Take these two screws out, take this plate off, and that exposes, I think there's screws down there that hold a spring that applies tension to this gold band. Once you get this band off, the front just comes right off. The first thing I did was wipe down the whole cover with some Windex, which pretty much eliminated all the odors. They'll come back eventually, but for now anyways, it smells alright. Then I tried some Novus number 2 on this fogged area, and it had essentially no effect. So I switched to Novus number 3, and I'm happy to say that that is working. So far I've just done a pass right here, and you can see it's gotten it all off. So it'll take a little bit of elbow grease, but in an hour or so I hope to have all this worked off. It actually took me closer to 2 hours than an hour to buff this out, and it's not perfect. I might do another pass or two, but it's one heck of a lot better than it was. I also took some Windex to the CRT and cleaned that up as well. So, that's much, much better.